Today I'd like to review the Canon M50 mirrorless camera. I wanted to review a consumer level camera for one real main reason. Sometimes I go for a hike and I'll go for a walk around town, and I just don't want to bring my big heavy DSLR system with me. Number of lenses, just the lenses themselves can be huge. And I thought I'd check out this Canon's little mirrorless system to see what it's like. There are certain things I really like about this camera, some things that are not quite perfect, but we'll review those. So the Canon M50 mirrorless camera hosts 24 megapixels of resolution. It's got a 1.6 crop factor. So what that means is this kit lens, which is 15 to 45 millimeters, really translates over to 24 millimeters to 72 millimeters, which is a pretty standard zoom lens sort of focal length. What I really love about it is that it can shoot a RAW file, Canon CR3 file, and that it gives me options for manual exposure, which is probably the most important thing for me because I'm not somebody who likes to shoot on any of the auto modes. I'm almost always shooting in a manual exposure mode. And sometimes I'm shooting aperture priority or shutter speed priority, and it has these options, which is great. They also built in 4K video recording to this camera, which is not something I tested or would really even use. If I was going to step into 4K recording, I would be using a real video camera at that point. However, I do see some utility to using a camera like this for, say, like a wedding videographer who may want a small camera on a Steadicam gimbal and not have to have, one of the larger gimbal devices that can hold a full DSLR. You can have something real small like this sitting on a little gimbal for, bride walking down the aisle type shots. Another kind of nifty thing is that this camera can shoot and send photos wirelessly to your iPhone or Android device. And that's kind of fun to be able to, shoot. You could even have this on a tripod and be firing the camera from your mobile phone. That's pretty cool. I think some of the main pros about this camera is that it's small. I can go for a hike and get some, just shots of my family hiking around, things like that, and not feel like I'm carrying such a huge camera with me. The fact that I'm working with a RAW workflow allows me to take the images into Lightroom and continue to edit the photos, which is really nice. For travel, this would be it's a pretty nice little camera. Taking it around, it's nice and lightweight. The fact that it shoots manual exposure is important to me, so that's a pro for me. And it's 24 megapixels, so it's got a pretty high resolution little digital file to it. At the time of this video, the body only is about $629. And with the kit lens, the 15 to 45 kit lens, I believe it comes in at just under $700. Now, when it comes to this 15 to 45 millimeter kit lens that comes with it, the thing I was noticing when I would bring all my shots into Lightroom was that they all seemed soft, and I started to question the autofocus system in the camera. And then I realized that really, we're talking about a kit lens that's under $100, and it's just kind of a soft lens. It's not the highest of quality lenses. And I think that would be disappointed if somebody bought this as a kit and then realized all their shots aren't tack sharp. They would think that there's something wrong with the camera when it's really just kind of a lesser expensive lens. Now, if you were to spend the $200 on the M mount adapter, which will allow you to put your EF glass onto this camera, not only would you be able to hold on to this adapter for future M series cameras, which would be probably a wise thing to do, but it allows you to put your L series lenses on it. Might seem a little silly to take a $1,300 lens and put it on a $600 camera, but the differences between sharpness were pretty striking to me. We can look at this example. So you can see here in this file, a portrait I took of Quinn, our director's assistant, just standing outside. That shot with the kit lens, the shot is pretty soft. But then I switched and took the same shot with this 50 1.2 L series lens, and it's tack sharp. So I guess it would be kind of a silly thing, in some ways, for one to purchase this camera and then also purchase higher-end Canon glass. But I think if you are already on the Canon system and you already have some L glass available to you, just getting this body and the adapter would certainly get you much sharper images. I'd like to test the other M lenses in the series to see if they all suffer from a certain amount of lack of total sharpness. But for this particular test, I just checked out the regular kit lens that comes with it, and I was not exactly impressed. Some of the things that I noticed about the camera that it does feel, compared to a DSLR, it feels a little bit like a toy. Some of the menus and things like that remind me of more of the point-and-shoot cameras, but then I realized that, well, it kind of is a point-and-shoot camera. It just has some of these other manual exposure features, which I think are great, because it drives me nuts as a manual exposing kind of photographer to shoot a point-and-shoot camera and not have those features. This is sort of like that crossover between those worlds, where I have a point-and-shoot camera, but I have some exposure control and I'm shooting a raw file. That's pretty cool. Now, one thing that's a little nutty is the D-pad on the back is such where I can change certain features. I can delete a file, I can turn the flash on and off, I can go from autofocus to manual focus, I can go into some exposure compensation modes. And in manual shooting, I'm able to toggle between my f-stop and my shutter speeds by dialing up on this little D-pad. Now, for somebody who had really big hands, this tiny little D-pad may prove to be difficult. Me personally, I prefer my aperture and shutter speed, like on DSLRs, to be on two separate dials, because then I can quickly get to them, rather than having to press a button to toggle to one and then toggle to the other. In a quick moment, if I'm having to shoot something fast and I need to get to my shutter speed or aperture, having to do this next step of pressing that button slows me down. Might miss the shot. So that's something that I hope that they'll fix in the future with their mirrorless systems, and put the shutter speed and aperture on separate dials that are just full-time, in control of those features. The autofocus I found was pretty good. I think the lack of sharpness in this particular kit lens was making me question whether the autofocus was any good, but I think it does a pretty good job. Now, when I compare this mirrorless system to other systems I've used, Sony and Fuji in particular, I feel as though Canon's a few steps behind where those other manufacturers are in terms of mirrorless systems. And I look forward to, since I'm a Canon user and I have a lot of Canon glass, I look forward to them kind of stepping it up with the mirrorless system, because the mirrorless systems are pretty nice, for sure. To wrap it up, I think it's a great camera for the money, and I think it's great if you want to do some travel and have a small camera and not be bringing a big DSLR with you. It's great for like backpacking trips. If you're wanting some sort of lightweight camera that's a cross between a point and shoot and having some manual exposure features and shooting raw, it's a great camera for the money. So if you like this video, be sure to hit the like sign. If you don't like it, hit the dislike sign. If you want to leave a comment down below. And if you'd like more of this great content, then feel free to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.